Two MLU insiders, bringing you hard analysis of everything that happens on the field. This is the John and Greg Show.
And welcome back.
Now I can go.
Now we can. You have been spending the entire break thinking that we're going.
I know.
And saying a bunch of funny things.
Luke doesn't understand how cameras work.
We welcome back Luke Ryan, for those of you who haven't seen his ugly face before.
Beautiful face.
I just said ugly face right before you said beautiful face.
Well,
that's going to be beautiful. That's a
beautiful
beautiful
opinions about my face, Greg.
That's going to be a beautiful moment in this podcast history.
It is. Okay, that's good.
So welcome back to the show. You may remember Luke from Heads and Tails.
And now it's just Tails right now.
Yeah, the head is not here right
now.
Yeah, it has been a while.
So a lot's been going on the stat side.
Yeah, tell us about what you've been up to.
Well, Tim and I have always encountered this problem. Do I look at you or do I look at the camera now? It's weird.
It is a weird thing. We never had this problem before. I think you can look at me. There's generally a rule in sort of cinematography. You're not talking to the people beyond the camera.
Okay, all right.
I mean, you're talking to them in a general sense. You're talking in a literal sense. You're talking to us, and they're listening.
Got it. Okay. Well, Tim and I, along with Jeff, encountered the problem that most Ultimate fans have with Pro Ultimate, be it the ADL or the MLU, or even USAU for that matter, where the only statistics that we really have available are goals, assists, like throws, but that's barely at USAU functions.
Turns
and blocks.
Lucky, right.
So you can't really do any hardcore analysis on just those numbers and those basics. So we're sitting down, hashing out. We're in the middle of really revamping the entire system for fantasy, for just game day stat collection. I can't really get into all of it because we're on a time schedule, but we have 52 different variables on a per action or per throw.
You guys spent a lot of time basically coding a bunch of video.
Yeah,
which is something I was actually asked about early on in the MLU history. Like something about, do you have any idea how to code video? I'm like, well, you pretty much just would sit there and watch it and do it.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what you've been up to in a sense.
It's been a lot of fun and it's a lot of hard work. We're still working. But at the end of the day, just like even thinking about it, just for every throw, instead of just having a set of goals, assists, throws, assists, blocks, turnovers, drops, whatever you want.
Some more interesting metrics.
There's going to be a lot of metrics, like 52 to be exact.
52
maybe we're probably
total
going to add.
metrics. That's awesome.
It might end up being like 60, 75 in like 2 years. So that's fun.
I'm really interested in what you've been doing with fantasy because that impacts me a lot because I like fantasy sports.
Yeah, well now I have my little cheat sheet so I can help you out during drafts. If things hold true to what they are now, it's a little bit of a difference to what we did last year, but only slightly. We've been just tweaking the numbers. We still have the 7-player roster, and it'll be 2 handlers, 2 receivers, 2 defensive players, and your superstar. We've kind of brought down the scoring a little bit and brought scoring up in some points to make sure everything evens out. If you play, let's say Nick Kiernet in the receiver spot and he has 1 goal and 9 assists, you're not going to get all of those points for assists. There's certain categories for receivers and handlers that you're going to get more
certain
points
multipliers.
For. Yeah.
And oh.
So
similar.
Yeah, I tried to make it more so that if you put them in a different spot, that you're gonna lose, but only by like 4 points. So like you're hitting yourself. Where you're like, oh, if I had just put him in that one spot, then everything would have been all right.
Which is very unlike our fantasy football game this weekend, where you defeated me. There was nothing I could have done.
I think I'm up by like 50 points.
I don't think there was any combination of players I could have used to beat you, and any combination of players you could have put in that would have lost to me.
I think I'm having the best week in fantasy in our entire league, and Aaron Rodgers, Eddie Lacy, and Mason Crosby, the Packers kicker, have yet to play.
You really have 3 Packers on your roster.
I do.
He's a Packers fan.
I know he's a Packers fan. That's why I'm questioning it.
Well, Aaron Rodgers was my first pick, and then I traded DeAndre Hopkins for Eddie Lacy with Tim. I don't know how I got away with that. And it's helped me.
I made an incredible trade with Tim that didn't help me at all. So.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're playing great.
No, he basically traded me Golden Tate, and Golden Tate did nothing for me.
Yeah.
But the guy I traded him did even less, and also wound up back on my roster 2 weeks later.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Just
to make a pun.
I want to be able to do this with Fantasy Ultimate. So
I think we're going to be able to.
That's exciting.
It's really an ad drop question.
It is an ad drop question. As soon as ad drop kicks in, we're gonna, this whole show is gonna be about fantasy sports.
I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that.
We'll become the Matthew Berry and Eric Carabell of Fantasy Ultimate. And you can be that other guy.
What's his name? I don't even know his name.
I forget the other guy's name.
Okay, break.
Is there a third one?
I think there has to be.
There's got to be.
I'm sure there is.
What's his name? The Dilfer. The Dilfer has his own fantasy show.
Does
He's
he?
on with
Trent
the-
Dilfer?
Why?
No, not Trent. The
Why?
other
There's
one.
another Dilfer? There's not another Dilfer. There's only one Dilfer.
No, there's multiple Dilfers.
Are there
You mean the
multiple Dilfers?
Hasselbacks.
The Hasselbacks.
That's- yeah,
multiple
yeah.
Hasselbacks, yes.
Tim Hasselbeck.
Yeah, he's on
Or
fantasy
we can just
football
go. We can go Jake Laser.
show. Okay, we digress.
We'll shave it head. Anyway.
We do digress.
We digress.
We have brought you on to talk underrated players because I know this is something that you've been
Going over, like pouring over film.
You're pouring
people.
over film and stats and pulling out guys that we might not know about.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go around and we're gonna come up with 5
Okay,
between the 3 of us, and we're gonna try to come up with a list.
that's fun.
Why don't you start with a
start.
guy
No,
that?
I don't want to start. I
what-
wanna go third.
all right, John, why don't you start? I don't want to start either.
All right, we'll start out with an obvious one. This is probably our top guy.
Yeah, this is the guy I think in the pre-meetings we all agreed on this one.
Yeah, so Calvin Ong, if you've watched DC's offense, he's that piece that isn't going to get all the glory in terms of points, but is so essential. So, Luke, I'm sure you've been pouring over DC's film. What does he do so well?
Well, it's one of those things when you brought me on originally to talk about most underrated players. Obviously, he was the first one who came to mind. He's the glue handler. He's not Schaffner who just hucks it all the time.
He's also very willing to go downfield and cut,
Yeah.
which is a quality that I don't have.
Yeah. And when games that they missed with Schaffner and Kolek, he was able to, especially the championship game, he was able to just fill in that void, and our offense ran perfectly, as if Kolek wasn't even there. One of the main things that
he wasn't there.
That's what I said. As if he,
As you said, as if he wasn't there, but he wasn't.
there. So as if he was there, I meant to say. I apologize. And one of the things that really jumps off with Calvin, a big reason why DC's offense was so good at converting or getting the disc back after they turned it the first time is he plays very, very solid defense. He played minimal D-line points, yet somehow ended up with eight or 9 blocks on the season.
Yeah, they have just that whole offense is like that.
Yeah.
They don't. They give up turnovers and then they get them right back.
And I think part of that is, just the voracious nature of if I'm going to make a turn, I'm going to go and get the disc back. But with Ong, that's just sheer athleticism.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit like Don Brown on the other side of the disc, just that length.
Dom Gibson.
Tom Gibson, sorry. No.
Dom Brown is the Phillies
horrendous
Russ.
Phillies.
Yeah.
But just that length, that athleticism that really helps him to get this.
He does whatever the team needs him to do, and that's why I feel like and no one doesn't get any of the accolades. They always go to Pryl, they always go to Schaffner.
Year one he had really big numbers, and then everybody was kind of talking about him as like a guy who could really be a star. And then this year his numbers kind of fell off, but I don't think his performance did at all. I think he was just as good, if not better.
The game where that stands out to me was in the first season. What was it? It was week 10, I think, down in DC.
When they had to win.
Yeah, Kolek had a monster performance, but so did he. His numbers were nuts. I think he had 11 points.
He was
total.
excellent. Shedding your nice
It's a
fancy
little
coat.
hot.
You were so excited to get that coat.
So
So Calvin, back to Ultimate.
I think we've said all the.
Yeah, well,
he's just a great player. He'd probably be my first round pick if I had to.
your first pick, like over everybody else that you could pick,
or just underrated.
Yeah.
Oh, an underrated player. Okay, so we have a team full of stars, and we're looking for underrated guys. And yeah, I think you're probably right.
First pick of the underdog team.
Yeah, first pick of the not stars.
Let's go.
But he really should be a star.
He should be, but
People should know about him, and that's why we're doing this show.
Yeah.
so let's go. A guy from the West Coast. Try and keep it
West
balanced.
Coast. All right.
Yeah, this is
you guys
your-
might disagree with me. Well, not disagree with that he's underrated, but I want to go throw Keen Knapp out there. It's not so much that he's not a great player, because he is. He's an amazing player. He just didn't have the platform to perform, and I feel like in their playoff game as well as the final, he was actually able to step into more of a premier player role, and he flourished. So as long as he gets that playing time, I think he's going to perform as well. I think he could be looking at 25, 30 assists, maybe 15 to 20 goals. Like any combination in there.
Yeah, there's no question he's a good talent for Vancouver's young guy. I think still in school, senior maybe.
Might be.
UBC. I think.
No, he's a young guy. Yeah.
That
Young-
whole team
young
is just
Just
stud.
so
young.
young. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a very, very young, strong core, and we'll see how much comes back. We don't know yet
Right.
any details about
No.
players that they're signing. We hope to have our show favorite Morgan Hibbert back, but we don't know anything. I would say it's a safe bet that Morgan's going to come back, but you never know. We'll have to take down the head. Morgan, look, we put your head up. I'm sure he's listening.
But yeah, definitely if he gets at least 16 to 20 points a game on average this year, I think he's my dark horse MVP.
Fantasy points or?
Oh no, points like playing points.
Points
on
played.
the field,
Okay,
points played.
The record is 14.
Yeah. If he can get that on a game by game basis, he's definitely my dark horse. He's not going to win.
Well, you're calling him out of it pretty early.
Yeah, but definitely could see his name be floating around for league best or West Coast best, I should say.
I don't think anybody was talking about Brendan Wong last year before the season. So, dark horse MVP candidates can
I'm throwing it out soon. I got you. If you're in the running, right here.
It really wasn't even until Vancouver made the playoff push that people started talking about Brendan Wong.
He was already leading the lead.
It was really Eli Friedman, I think, that was the leading candidate until...
Which was fair.
Once Vancouver got in the playoff push, you start looking at Brendan Wong's numbers and it's like, well, yeah, I guess he's the MVP.
And I think that's
12 more
that's
goals.
a good thing, though, that as like a consensus body, we didn't jump to Wong because of the stats. I think that's a good thing.
We had to wait for he was kind of the guy who hits a lot of home runs on the bad baseball team.
Right. Kind of like how Timmy in year one, Person, we had the same conversations about how, like, man, his numbers are so good.
But these guys, we're talking about not underrated guys right now. Let's get back to Keane and what he can do. He has a great layout in the championship game that you can go look at. I'm pretty sure it's up. It's a standalone video on our website. You could go and check. I mean, there's athleticism there. The kid can play. I'm excited to see if he comes back and I think you're right. I think he could be a dark horse MVP candidate.
Especially on that team with all the options that he has.
Especially if they're able to compete again the way they did last year.
Yeah.
For sure.
Going back to the East Coast.
Yeah,
we should go. Let's talk about a guy that you're really really passionate about. Boston.
Oh, in Boston.
This is what
let's go to Muck. I like Muck more. I think I like Muck more.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him on this list.
You don't want to put him?
I don't want to put him on this list.
Can you tell me why?
I can tell you why.
I'll say why.
I can tell you why I don't want to put Cosmowitz on this list because he was. I think he had a bad year this year, especially in terms of numbers. Well, we can debate for days. And he was also a guy that we talked a lot about. So at the very least, I don't think he's underrated.
You think he's rated?
I think he's at the best rated.
That he should be.
If you're going on the scale of overrated is the worst, rated is middle, and underrated is where you want to be. Yeah. I think rated is the top place that he can get, and you can make an argument that he's rated properly and just had a kind of a toxic situation, some might say, in New York with the way that they were playing.
It's a heavy word.
It's a heavy word. But look, they were bad. There's no way you can't get around that. They were probably the worst team in the league last year.
But at the
we
same
expected
time,
them to be among the best.
Do you think that we are overrating their best players because they had a bad year?
I don't know.
Or you're saying underrated?
I think he.
No, I'm saying like, is Mazur now overrated because his team was bad last year?
I feel like
I mean, you could maybe say that. I don't know. I don't want to go to that length yet, and I don't want to even say that Cosmowitz is overrated. I just think we talked about him a lot. His first season,
underrated.
He's rated, I think, and his first season was outstanding. I mean, he scored tons of goals for them. He was always involved in the big play, and then kind of the second year, he was a little quieter. I think he transitioned maybe a different role. Obviously, that team
couldn't get him the disc.
Yeah, obviously the team had enormous struggles. But you just made a little statement there about what you think of that.
A little too controversial.
I don't. It's sports. It's not controversial, but that's an argument for another day.
But I think that like the more positive spin that you brought up in our pre-recording meeting is that it's not so much that he struggled because everyone around him was bad, but it's also that just by design he's that glue guy. Yeah. In between where they're setting up their pull play and when they're actually finishing.
Exactly. He's there for resets, not resets. For upfield, he's always open. He's not. He doesn't. I don't think he scored a lot of goals. I think he had 9 goals, 5 assists. I think that was his line on the year. But he wasn't asked to do that. He wasn't asked to be the focal point of an offense. I feel like if he would slide back into it, I know Nunez likes him a lot. He should start using him more. I had multiple conversations with him about his usage and how he said he liked him, but my stats don't like him, and my stats don't like him because he's not. Stats don't reflect how good of a
all of a
player
sudden
he
Luke's
is.
a correspondent now. Okay.
Oh.
Going out in the field doing interviews.
Well, that's one of the main things, and it comes back to the point of we just don't have the correct amount of stats that can really evaluate a player with our 7 base stats. But now I feel like once all of our numbers are in place, we're going to see players like Muck he's going to be properly rated.
For the record, I like him as a player, and I think he's a guy you can pick to have a bounce back year.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call him underrated because I think maybe he went from almost he went from an underrated guy to a rated guy to now maybe some might say an overrated guy. I mean, I hesitate to call him one of the top 5 underrated players.
We'll talk about this in a couple months.
Yeah, I would go back to the West Coast with my pick for that slot because I think we agree on the other 4, but I think we're probably having a little difficulty at 5. I would make a case for Thomas Rosado in Seattle. I think that was a guy that nobody saw coming. Nobody knew what he could do, and he goes a little unnoticed with guys like Zemmel and Koss and, of course, Donnie Clark, who exploded with points this year.
And the other guy that we were debating was Jackson Stearns for the
I think
Dogfish.
I think Jackson makes this list.
Yeah, he was one of our 4 that pretty
universally
made it. And he, Jackson Stearns, to anyone who doesn't know, split time O&D, which is the impressive piece when a guy can play 60 O points and 60 D points and be effective in this.
On a team. He was a real rock on a team that really struggled.
Yeah, it was really, and he put up numbers similar to Esser, but just Esser on a whole other level. Matt Esser, and that's what it's really rare to find players like you were saying that are playing offense and defense almost at a 50-50 split, and then being able to contribute all across the board on stats. And that's really what Jackson does. He doesn't pop off the board for his goals, assists, or blocks, but the fact that he's above league average in all of them should speak volumes.
You uncovered him because in your running numbers for fantasy, his name kept popping up at the top of the list, right?
Yeah. And I was surprised. I was I remember watching the games.
I think that's how you define an underrated player right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go to the other guy we all agreed on, Henry Brescher in Boston. You are really struggling with pronunciations today.
It's terrible. I'm having a lot of time.
If Brescher is not the correct pronunciation, any viewers out there know, can you tell us what the correct? We're gonna go.
Brescher.
I think we're gonna go Brescher for
Brescher for today.
For today, and if someone corrects us, we'll change.
That works.
Apologies if we're wrong. We're going off the best information we have.
Yeah.
And that means our own guess.
We read it on the page.
We've
watched him play all year. We've read it on the back of his jersey the entire year.
Yeah. But I think we all agreed that Calvin Ong was number 1. For me, he was number 2 in my eyes.
I might put Jackson above him, but I'll entertain your argument.
Not because he didn't put up the numbers, because he put up amazing numbers as a handler. But the reason why he's so underrated is because when you're on the same field as Josh Marquette, you're on the same field as Jeff Graham, you're on the same field as Danny Clark.
Went the wrong Clark.
Yeah. It's just you get lost in the shuffle. The same thing with DC.
Don't forget
same
Malachek.
thing with Palm. And Malachek. Even more so. It's just he's there, and I feel putting up great numbers, but no one looks at him. No one talks about him.
Yeah, I think we only mentioned him a couple of times, and it was, I think, after they lost, we noticed he wasn't there. And we noticed that maybe that could be something that impacted the way that they played.
I think it's also about just Boston in general. Like, we know that, their top 3 guys, or even their top 4, throw Foster in, right?
Are as good as anybody.
Right, and the stats back that up, but there's just something about the way that Boston goes about playing their offense that makes it so no one really lights up the way that you'd expect.
Yeah.
Whereas watching Philly, let's say last year, it's impossible to not notice Esser even in games when he doesn't put up big numbers. It's just that flash, that sex appeal almost.
They run a very basic vert stack for a majority of their points, and it's not sexy, like you said. They just get it done.
They're very Seattle Seahawks in the way they play. We're gonna just be better than you.
Yeah,
and it might not look good, but we're gonna win.
No.
Well, not this year. Or not last year.
Well, last night.
Well, I mean, I was more talking about Boston,
Oh,
not the Seahawks.
Not the Seahawks.
We can debate Seahawks. We've had a lot of football on this show
Yeah.
today.
Seeping.
This was originally intended to be like a mini show, and now we're up to almost a full hour
Oh,
like
yeah,
this.
that's nice. Well, they missed you guys. It's been how long? Like
Yeah,
3 months, 4 months.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, so
Very long time.
yeah, give them back.
Mount Rushmore was the last episode.
That's true.
And we're doing kind of a similar thing. We just added a face and changed the criteria
That's okay.
That is all right.
That's all season spin, right?
from like most recognizable good players to like least recognizable good players.
Keenan,
yeah,
MVP, 2015.
So where do we land on this? We land Calvin in DC. We've got Keenap in Vancouver, Jackson Stearns in San Francisco, Brescher in Boston, and then we're fighting over Kuzmowicz and Rosado for number 5. Let's just call it a top 6.
Okay, yeah. Leave it there.
Agreed.
It's
I don't
like
think I'm going to convince you my way, and you're not going to convince me your way.
Yeah, it's a fundamental.
And John's going to sit here in the middle saying we're both right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're both right.
It's just
Do you have it?
differences.
You
It's
want to
just
go on top
semantics.
7 and pick somebody for
No,
yourself?
I mean, I've been trying to think of other guys, but, you know, because I've seen Philly the most, and I'm trying to think if there's anyone there who I'd even call underrated, and I don't know.
I think it's tough for us to gauge underrated Philly players because we see them all the
Yeah.
time. We know that
So we
they're
know who
often
actually is good. And
in other markets, you could probably convince somebody that Frederick Brazzi is the guy. Who's
Oh, no,
really
actually,
underrated.
never mind. No, take it back. He should be on this list.
Oh, okay, all right. So we're gonna go ahead and call it a top 7. Call it a day at.
He was a glue. I think that the real criteria.
He was a
we
real
yielded
consistent
out of this,
player.
He was consistent. He was a glue to that D line when they really needed it.
Yeah,
So
and
he's my
they
guy.
miss him when he does not play.
I think a lot of these people are just glue guys.
Speaking-
or a vast majority of
Yes.
these
Yeah,
have been glue
Speaking
guys.
of pronunciations, have we figured out how to pronounce Frederick Braz's name?
So I know that
Braze?
Is it Braz?
Braz?
I was corrected in an email.
Can someone
a long
please
time ago.
send this along to us
Yeah.
so we don't make these same mistakes in the next show?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Jeff has known him for years and won't tell us how to pronounce his name.
That's not helpful.
It's not
He's
helpful.
just messing with you?
I think he might be. I think he wanted to create this exact circumstance.
So we look like fools. It's all right. That's very Jeff-like with us.
Yeah, go ahead and throw the commissioner under the bus.
All right. Well, I think that's
It's a good show.
yeah.
It's fun. I had fun. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
I like him.
Thanks for
You're
coming.
Yeah, so you'll catch some more from us next week after we head up to New York.
After we head up to New York, get this all processed, and we'll have some more announcements coming soon about the rest of the tour and where our show is going to live this year, in terms of places you can listen, and ways you can watch now with the video.
Right.
Hopefully, the video turns out okay, and we didn't cut everybody's face off for this one. As you know, I usually run as a producer for Nick and Jeff's show,
We do
so there's somebody usually watching the screen. We just kind of set this up, and we don't.
And fingers crossed.
My head's
Yeah.
going to be out the side, so I have to come in.
You should be good. I think I framed it up for you. Billy, when he was on
Billy,
earlier,
not so much. He was like,
he
I'm
may
out here.
no, he may be. You can come back to the frame now. I did not check the framing before that, so if we got him, I didn't realize that he was going to be sitting,
Okay.
kind of So it's possible his head got cut off on the side, and if
He's
it
got a sm-
did,
he's got a
we
small
may have
head.
to
He's got
scrap
a
the
little
video
head.
for that segment and just go with audio.
Uh-oh.
Well, with that, for Luke's hat hair,
Does it look that bad? I didn't
and
know.
everyone here at the MLU offices, I'm
See,
John
now it's
Phillips.
back on. You
I'm
guys
Greg
waited.
Fallon. Thanks for listening.